Nadaljujemo pa z naslednjim govorcem, zaradi katerega smo seveda izjemno veseli, da je danes v naši družbi in da nam bo predstavil svoje stališče in svoje izkušnje, kajti gre za odvetnika, ki je specializiran za področje človekovih pravic in hkrati aktivista na področju drog. Bil je nekdanji direktor mednarodne mreže uporabnikov drog, ki je sodeloval pri vzpostavitvi Cannabis Social Clubov na Portugalskem, danes pa je direktor organizacije in predstavnik in-koda, predavatelj ter avtor publikacij. Velik aplaus in zahvala za njegov obisk gospodu Jorgeju Roque.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you all here. I am from Portugal, where we introduced the decriminalization drug policy. I also work with INPUT, the international network of drug users. That's the world biggest organization fighting for drug users' rights, trying to solve problems in several countries as Afghanistan, Thailand, Nigeria, or in Europe, of course. And also we collaborate with ENCODE, the European coalition, who works near the European institution, and with several NGOs in all countries of the European Union. And most of all, my work is directed with the drug policy in Portugal. I would like to start to remember that when about 50 years ago it was introduced the Prohibition law. It was created one of the worst social problems that we have ever had in the human history, with millions of people being infected, being incarcerated, dying, and everybody suffering from directly or indirectly by criminality, for example. So what was supposed to be a positive measure to help controlling the addiction had in opposition create a very dozen of times % superior problem than help, let's say like this. And as it was supposed to solve these problems, and people got the idea that drugs were bad, so they must be punished, and they started to increasing. They were not obtaining good results, so hard penalties, more years in jail, more people being even sentenced to death, and no positive results were obtaining. So the state started to see that we have to change. We cannot follow this because there's no way of being cruel to people and not receiving any positive results. So that's why we have entered in a new age of searching for new policies. And my country was pioneer in this aspect because it introduced the decriminalization of drug use. Decriminalization means not that it's legal, but it's not a crime to use drugs. That's some difference. So when a person is caught by a police using a drug, because it's still forbidden to sell drugs, but a person just for using drugs is not a criminal. And we have some limits. That's 2 grams for cocaine, 1 gram from heroin, 25 grams for marijuana, 5 grams for hashish, in general terms, that's like that. So when a police caught a person, he has two choices. If the person is a sporadic user, it's possible to apply a sanction, a fee. But if a person is a regular user, it's sent to a commission. It's called the commission to dissuade to people be advised not to use drugs. And this commission, the person talks with a psychologist, a commission of psychologists and experts in social issues, and together with the psychologist, the person finds the best solution for him to do a treatment or to control, to use a drug in the best health possible to have. This was in 2000, so after more than 10 years, now we have results that this is producing very positive results. Because as the state didn't have to spend so much money contracting more police, doing more jails. It could spend also more money in harm reduction, in health measures. And so it was an approach of the state as treating a person as a psychological and health issue, and not just putting the person in prison. And as a result of this interaction, because a person, for the fact that he's not a criminal, it's easier to get closer to the state and to go to the health social centers. And that makes that the consume didn't increase when it was. Some people said if you're going to decriminalize, the consumption in Portugal going to increase a lot. That didn't happen. Decreased a little, but didn't go. And the diseases decreases a lot. For example, I can say that the HIV by injectable drug use in 10 years decreased 80%. It's 80% less that we have now that we have before when he was a criminal to use drugs. And that's a consequence direct of not being a crime. Because we can, when we compare the graphic with the HIV by sex, which is about the same, but by drug use, it's much better now, 80%. That's science, that's scientific, there's no words. So this was the first step. Of course, the word drugs is much more complex than just being decriminalized, not a crime to use drugs, because there are many other aspects involved. So now we are trying to push, for example, if drugs are still forbidden, are still sell on the black market, so are still don't have quality control and are sold at high prices. And as many people in a marginal, still allows a marginal market, so still marginal lifestyle, because drugs are expensive, and still people who develop the addiction still needs money and still commits small crimes to obtain drugs. We are now trying to pass to a new phase, start to regulate new drugs in another way. And I'm also involved now in the legalization of cannabis in Portugal. So we have a law in Parliament, it's going to be voted again. The debate was very positive. That allows 3 modalities of cannabis. The Cannabis Social Clubs, which was already explained by my colleague. It allows a person to have her own plantation until 10 plants, or if, because some people don't have, lives in a city, in an apartment, cannot plant. And so it's also possible to have and to produce in commercial terms, but it has to be controlled by the state, like a license with the control of the Health and Pharma Institute, which will prepare the documents securing that the state receives the taxes and controls the health and obey to all the cares that we have to have, the responsibility as not selling to kids, not selling to persons with, I don't know, some other conditions that for other products are not allowed or not advisable to have. So that is what we get now to this opening idea that it's possible to get away, cut with the past, cut with punishment, cut with criminalization, and obtain much better results. In fact, that's not this decriminalization started in Portugal, but now it's much more being used in other countries, and other examples are receiving also positive results of having a state regulation influence. As for example, the heroin program in Denmark, Germany, Switzerland, and Holland, other countries, that allow people who had serious problems with the heroin, that already had failed the methadone, to suddenly start to recover his own health, stop committing small crimes, And even in substantial cases, a person starts work and now is paying taxes from a person who was just committing small crimes and being infected by diseases. Now is a citizen who works for himself and contributes to the social health and the social funds paying taxes. So we are having good examples of it's better to change from punishment and criminal just policy to another approach from the state. So with these points of not being a crime to use a drug, and with a great investment of the state in harm reduction, and each drug will have to be regulated because drugs are different, and we cannot regulate each drug as one solution for heroin or for cannabis or for cocaine is not the same. We have to study how each case should be treated. It's in some cases we are still studying what can we do. We know that just criminalize doesn't work, but we have to try because we have 50 years of prohibition when we still are fighting for a legalization. So some substance will need some experience for we going to adapt to a better solution. But when we have all these measures, it will be not a crime, and with harm reduction and a individual drug relation, we'll stop once for all the social, the crime, and the health problems that during half a century became one of the worst problems in our society. So we have to start thinking, for how long we'll wait more? For 50 years more? Okay, now, because drugs is just not the legal question, we have lots of issues connected with drugs. One of the biggest is the taboo, the mentality that we have drugs has to be bad, so they have to receive a bad judgment from society, and so they have to be criminalized. But people use drugs. And when we use drugs, we have to consider alcohol. Alcohol is the drug that kills more persons. And that's not why people criminalize alcohol. Well, we tried once in the United States, but it was a disaster. Al Capone and Lucky Luciano, they remember quite well when they were alive. So there's no solution for us. And nobody thinks that if we forbid the alcohol, we're going to save lives, we're going to receive positive inputs of that. So we have to fight this taboo. Also, another question above the legality is the situation that democracy is a complicated system because it's the dictature of the majority. The majority imposed to the minority what should be allowed and not allowed. And as a minority of persons consumes certain substances that now are illegal, the majority doesn't allow very well that kind of lifestyle. But in the world that we are living, in a global world, everybody receives all information, all religions, all kind of lifestyles. We have to accept the rights of minority. And as if we decriminalize, if we create an investment on harm reduction, and if we regulate drugs in another way, we will decrease about 80% of our criminality. We will increase 80% of our health, and we will get about 80% more richer. So what are we waiting? More 50 years? No, I think now is the moment. And it's now that we have to legalize drugs, or at least regularize drugs once for all. Thank you.